Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our live session. This is the second live session of our course on Introduction to Dynamical Models in Biology. Just like the last live session, what we will do here in this live session, we will discuss three things. One, I'll discuss about the key points or the focus that you should have in this week's lecture. Right? We have 6 lectures this week, so I will discuss the key points on which you should focus more than the other thing. At the same time, what I will do, I will discuss some of the example problems, right? And also take up the questions that comes from the students. So right now we'll wait for a few minutes so that some people join us. Just to remind you that it is a 4-week course, so in each week we have one live session, and obviously you have to go through the lecture to some extent so that you can participate and interact with me in the live session. So what I request you, as soon as the videos are released, at least you just watch those videos leisurely so that you broadly know what is there, right? And then join this live session so that you can I can point out to you that where you should focus and what you should practice more, all these things. The other thing is, in every week we have assignment. Hopefully you have already submitted the assignment of week 1, and week 2 assignment is also live, right? Both of them are live, so you have to submit them in time. So this live session will possibly help you also to complete the second week assignment. So keep watching and let us move and try to understand the details of what we are learning in this week course, right? So what I will start with, the focal point of this week course. The first thing that you have to focus in second week of this course is that you have to go and learn how to use JSIM. JSIM is a numerical solver, right? You can use JSIM to solve numerically a ODE-based model. In other words, you can actually simulate a ODE-based model using JSIM. As I have said in the lectures that there are many numerical solvers available. There are many GUI-based softwares are available. Many of them are free. You can download and use them. If you are comfortable with programming, right? For example, you know C, or you know MATLAB, or even you know Fortran or Python. All these programming languages has some sort of library function to actually numerically solve ODEs using Euler's method or Runge-Kutta method, something like that, and you can write the code and do that. But as I understand, many of you actually does not have much experience in programming. So it is better not to jumpstart programming all of a sudden. Rather, you take a tool which is easy to use. And there are many such tools, but we have picked up JSIM for this purpose for 2 reasons. One, JSIM is free. You can download and use it. Second, it is almost plug and play. You actually do not have to go through installation process and all these things. If you are using Windows, then it is very simple. You download the zip file, the compressed folder, right? Unzip it, uncompress it, and find out that jsim.bat file, and then double click it, and your JSIM will start running. Only thing you have to do, as I have said in the lecture, you place them in the right location in your folders so that you can find them out easily. The third thing, advantage of JSIM is that JSIM has a graphical user interface. So if you are not much in computer programming, writing code on command line and all these things, you will surely feel very comfortable to work with JSIM. The fourth advantage of JSIM is that it is very powerful, and it is between GUI-based black box where you simply click to something you are writing in code. As you must have seen in the lectures that we have to write some amount of the code to create the JSIM model. How you are writing the code? These are not very complicated, right? The way you write mathematical equations to solve a ODE in your paper and pen, here in JSIM also you are doing. And I have uploaded videos. In 2 lectures, we have explained how to write those code. and we have uploaded those codes also, both as a JSON project file as well as text file, right? So you can easily use and copy and paste those code and do your own simulation using JSON, right? So I will insist that you learn JSON. Believe me, learning JSON is not difficult and you will be able to solve many problems. Most important, why we have to learn a tool like JSON apart from clearing assignment and exam. Assignment has JSON based problem, your exam can have JSON based problem, right? So that is not the only reason. Remember, suppose I have a toy given to and I want to know how this toy works. Then the best way to know how this toy works is actually to play with the toy, break it open, and then join it back, right? Reconstitute. The same thing is true when you are doing ODE-based modeling. You are learning dynamical models. You have to create models. You have to break down your ready-made models, that models that I'm providing. You have to tamper them. You have to play with them, simulate with them, and you have to see how the dynamics is changing. And when you see the dynamics of this changing on the JSON screen, then you realize, start understanding the basic key concept of this dynamical models, right? So just learning, solving some equation, answering some assignment question, or learning some basic theory will not help you to jump into this topic. The only way to do it, practice it by simulating yourself, and JSON can help you to do that. So please, my strong advice is learn this one, not just for exam, but also to start learning the dynamical model, use JSON. Now, the other points that you have to focus in this second week course, let me share my screen to show you those. One of the key question that you have, concept that you have to learn is the idea of steady state and stability, right? You have to understand in steady state what is happening if I have one variable dxdt, then I have one variable x and I have dxdt, that will be 0. If I have a system with 3 variables x, y, and z, then at steady state, all the derivatives dx dt, dy dt, dz dt, all these should be equal to 0, right? So a steady state is a situation where the rate of change of all dependent variable is 0, right? So that is actually a steady state. Now think about where is steady state in biology. Just think about it. See, all of us are actually in a steady state. For example, in physiology, they will not call it steady state, but they will call it homeostasis, right? So what is homeostasis? Homeostasis is nothing but a situation where the physiological parameter of the organism is actually not changing much with time. Okay, there will be some fluctuation. For example, if you look into a short period of time, for suppose few hours in the day, after suppose 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, my blood glucose level will fluctuate slightly, but more or less it will remain steady. So I am in a glucose homeostasis, right? So you can have a homeostasis of a organism, you can have a homeostasis of a cell, all these things you can have. But what is homeostasis? Homeostasis means the parameters which define the system, parameters which define the variables which defines the organism or the cell are actually not changing much. They're fluctuating slightly around a mean value. So this organism or cell is actually as a steady state, right? So steady state is a very important concept. With this, just the opposite of steady state could be something which is oscillating, right? We have hormonal oscillation, we have sleep cycle, we have a cell cycle where the protein get expressed, cyclings will increase and decrease, so the cycling, right? These are not steady. So the idea of steady state and oscillation both are very important in biology. And in this lecture, in this week's lecture, we are discussing primarily steady states, right? And how to identify steady state in the model that we are learning. Apart from the concept of steady state, you have to also learn the concept of stability of steady state, right? So you have to learn the concept of stability of steady state. What is steady state stability? Why the stability issue is so important? So as I said, right now I am in a physiological homeostasis. Right now, as I am talking to you, right? So you are also in a particular physiological homeostasis. So that means you and me are all at certain steady states. Now, obviously, that does not mean I am completely out, alienated from the environment. The temperature is fluctuating. I may now have a cup of coffee or drink water. So I am taking input from outside. So there is fluctuations, right? And as an open system, I am not covered, I am not isolated from the nature. So there is continuously fluctuation. But these fluctuations in general does not affect you and me much, right? Because we are in steady state which are stable. So in stable steady state, in the stable steady state, perturbation, if you give a perturbation, the system will come back to steady state, right? Hope you can see. So if I give a perturbation to a steady state, if it is a stable steady state, it will come back. Now here you have to remember one very key important point. There is a difference between perturbation and disturbing a system. In perturbation, you know it is a slight disturbance. So that if you are in a stable steady state, you can come back. Disturbing a whole system means suppose you are breaking down the wholesale, or you are breaking down parts of the organism. Then obviously the organism will not come back to its homeostatic position. Right? So there is a difference between what I mean by generally disturbing a system and perturbing a system. Perturbing a system means it is slight disturbance, slight fluctuation, right? So in these lectures, in this week's lecture, what we have to do is that we have to understand what is steady state, and at the same time you have to understand the issues of stability, stable steady state, unstable steady state, semi-stable steady state, all these things. We have a question here from Raju. Is steady state the same as the concept of stationary in time series model? Right. Right. It is stationary, right? So essentially, when you say time series model, if somebody does not know what is time series model, is that actually you are collecting some measurement. You are measuring something which changes with time, right? So suppose let us take a non-biology example. You are collecting the price of shares of IBM, right? Or suppose the share of LNT in or Bombay Stock Exchange, right? So every day the price fluctuates, and you note it down in an Excel sheet, and then you plot it. So you have time series data, right? And suppose it happens that after in a particular region, suppose for a particular month, almost for 10 days the price of this particular share is not changing. So you can say it is in a particular reached a steady state, right? So in a way, stationarity in time series model is same as what we have in steady state. Right? You are right. Is there any other question? Raju, is it fine to you? Is it clear? Okay, so if there is no more question, let us look into the other points which you should focus in this week's lecture. So there are 2-3 things which you should actually practice yourself, and you should understand. Those are direction field and fetch portrait. What you are doing in direction field and fetch portrait is that you want to know the trajectory. This is a very important idea, trajectory, and I will discuss a particular example problem today in terms of trajectory. Trajectory of the system in phase space. I will not write plane, I will say phase space. What is phase space? Phase space is a space defined by the variable which defines the system. For example, suppose you must have studied gas law, right? So if I give a balloon filled with gas, it can be characterized by P and V, right? So I can have P and V, pressure and volume. So if I know the pressure and volume, we can answer lots of questions about the system, right? So then I can draw a phase plane. It will be plane because it's two-dimensional. I can plot P versus V, and suppose the balloon is somewhere here. Means this is the pressure of the balloon, and the volume of the gas is this one. So this is my phase diagram in a way, right? Now, similarly, if you are talking about a biological system, suppose you want to characterize the behavior of a cell in terms of a one single gene, gene X. So you want to know how with time X is changing. So this is my phase space. And here the system may change like this. With time it may change. So this is my trajectory. Now suppose you are characterizing a particular cellular behavior in terms of two genes, gene Y and gene X. So what will be my phase space? My phase space will be defined by X and Y value. What is the level of expression of X? What is the level of expression of Y? So suppose this is the position of the cell right now at time, this time. That means the amount of X is this one, amount of Y in that cell is this one. Now after some time, due to the dynamical rule, the expression of X has decreased and also expression of Y has decreased, and the cell has now moved here, a new position. So what has happened? Cell has moved from there to there. So in this way, suppose it is moving like this. So this whole thing is my time trajectory, right? Obviously, I can see this type of trajectory on phase portrait or phase space if it is up to 2 dimensions. If I have 3 genes, 3 proteins, right, involved, or you are creating a model where 3 chemicals are involved, I can see it, but a 3D plot, it is difficult to visualize. Then you can actually get rid of data of one variable and plot the 2 other. So usually these plots are either 1 dimensional, just like the one I have shown above, or 2 dimensional, right? But in a way, for any n-dimensional problem also, I can draw this type of diagram, but I can visualize up to 2 dimensions. So for 1-dimensional problem, we use direction field. And for 2-dimensional case, we draw phase plane plot. It is also called phase portrait. So you have to learn this basic concept of direction field and phase portrait. And you have to learn how to draw it. I do not want you to draw a whole direction field and phase portrait by paper and pen. No, that is time consuming. For that, I have already given a link below the lectures for the online tool by which you can draw a direction field and a phase portrait. Let the computer do it for you. There are many other tools available. Use them if you have access to that. For example, MATLAB, there are some couple of tools. If you have access to MATLAB, you can do it. Otherwise, use the online tool that I have given link to. But you should understand the concept, how this direction field or phase portraits are created, right? You have to understand the concept, and also what I will ask you to practice is that suppose I want you to draw the direction field arrow at a particular point on the phase plane. You should be able to draw. You should be able to draw an arrow of a phase portrait plot in a particular point, given the information is given to you. You should practice those, and you should be able to do those by paper and pen. But for rest of the problem, always use the online tool or a computer to draw the diagram, right? But again, I will insist, just like using JSIM, please practice drawing this thing, either manually if you want or online tool, because then when you visualize, the dynamics become much more clear to you, right? So practice doing that. Fine. Now, the other point that you have to focus in this week's course is obviously to learn what is called null climb. It's very important. Null climbs gives lots of answer to our questions, and for most of the simple model that we are learning in this course, you can actually draw null climb by hand. So please practice drawing null climb by paper and pen, not just for exam, but also for learning what is null climb and how they help us to understand the dynamics. Then the last point that you have to understand, let me clean it a bit so that it gets more. So the last point that I want you to focus for these week lectures are the different type of phase coefficient, right? In general, steady state will be of two types, broad, stable, unstable, as simple as that. But when you are in two-dimensional case, actually you get subdivision of those, and you have interesting name and interesting pattern. So you have sync node where every trajectory from anywhere in the space is actually coming and collapsing, right? You can have what we call source node, you can have spiral, you can have center. So you should be able to recognize those page coefficients, right? That you have to learn, right? So what I have discussed till now, you have to focus on these 4 points when you are going through the lectures. Just to remind you again, for this course, you do not need any textbook. There are textbook reading material given for many of these lectures. I have given those, but those are not compulsory. If you simply follow the lecture and follow the advice that I am giving you in this live session, you should be able to sail through this assignment and the exam, right? Is there any question? Please ask. Otherwise, I will start discussing some example problems which may help you to learn this topic in assignment, may help in the future exam also, that may help, right? Is there any question? Okay. So if there is no question, let me start with some example problem and I will solve it, right? What I will suggest you that why don't you also take a paper and pen, right? Bring a paper and pen and try to solve it along with me, right? Then you have not to spare extra time on the same thing. So let me share my screen. Let's see the problem. First problem. Okay. I hope you people can see. The first problem says that a ODE is given, dx dt equal to x square minus 9. We have to calculate the steady states of the following ODE and comment on their stability. Right? So I'll wait for 1 or 2 minutes. It's a very silly question, very simple. If you have learned what is steady state, you should be able to answer it very fast. So can someone tell me how many steady states we have? How many steady states we have? If you have paper and pen with you, why don't you calculate how many steady states are there? I'll wait for 1 or 2 minutes. If anybody has the answer, please answer it in the chat box. Okay, I don't see any answer coming. So let us try how I will proceed. If I have any problem where I have to find the steady states algebraically, so that means all dependent variables derivative with respect to time should be equal to 0. In this problem, I have only one dependent variable, that is x. So I have to make its derivative with respect to time equal to 0. So that means for steady state, I write dx dt equal to 0. Then using this equation, what I get x square minus 9 must be equal to 0 because dx dt equal to 0. So I separate those terms, x square equal to 9. That gives me x equal to plus minus 3, right? Square root of 9 is 3. And it can be positive, negative, both. So I have two solutions, two steady states, right? So how many steady states we have? We have two steady states. And what are those? Plus 3 minus 3. It is silly, right? I said it is silly. Now I have to check the stability. Now here comes the simple method that I have discussed in the lectures. Please follow those instructions religiously. If you do not follow, your conclusion can become wrong. Your calculation can become wrong. What I have to do? First, I will check the steady state x equal to 3. I want to check the stability of it. What I will do? I will draw a table something like this. Here, in the first column, I should have, in this first column, I should have the value of x. Second column, I should have the dx dt, or rather, I do not need to calculate dx dt, only whether it is positive or negative, I will write. So, first x equal to 3. X equal to 3 is a steady state, that means dx dt will be 0. 3 square is 9, 9 minus 9 is 0. So, I will put an arrow like this, horizontal, because it is steady state. Then here, on the upper row, I will take a value bigger than the middle row. This is important. The value that I will take in the upper row should be, or rather must be, bigger than the value in the middle row. So let me take it x equal to 4. Something close to 3 we have to take, right? If x equal to 4, then x square minus 9 is equal to 4 square minus 9. So this is actually a positive value, 16 minus 9, right? So I will write positive. I don't need the exact value, right? So let us delete that. So if it is positive, that means my arrow will go up. Now take a simple value x, which is in the lowest lowest row. What I will take? I will take a value of x which will be less than the steady state value in the middle row. So let me take 2. So I will do the calculation again. X square minus 9. So x square minus 9 is 2 square minus 9. This should be negative because 4 is less than 9. So I have negative. So the arrow will be like this. So what is happening in this case? What is happening in this case is that I have one arrow which is on the top that is going away from the steady state. So this one is going away from the steady state, and this one is going down. None of these two arrows is converging to the steady state x equal to 3. So that means this is unstable. Right? So now let us move to the other steady state, x equal to minus 3. I will do the same test again. X equal to minus 3. Here I should have dx dt. Dx dt will be 0, horizontal arrow. Now take a value which is bigger than minus 3 and place that on the upper row. Now it is in minus, right? Remember, so I have to put something bigger than minus 3, so let's put minus 2. This is very important. We have to understand that the bigger will be always on the top row and the smaller will be always in the lowest row, and the steady state should be in the middle row. If you swap them, your calculation and conclusion will go wrong. Okay, x equal to minus 2. Let me calculate. X square minus 9. Minus 2 to the power 2 minus 9. This is a negative thing. So this is negative. So arrow will point down. Take a value of x which is smaller than minus 3. Okay, minus 4. I do the calculation again. X square minus 9 equal to minus 4 square minus 9. So this is 16 minus 9. So this is positive. So I have positive. This one will be. So both the arrows in this case, are pointing to the steady state. In the earlier case, when x equal to 3, both the arrows were moving away from the steady state. So that's why it was unstable. But in case of x equal to minus 3, both the arrows are pointing towards the steady state. So it must be stable, right? So let me write it down as stable. So this is my stable steady state. So x equal to -3 is stable, x equal to 3 is unstable. One important point I will highlight repeatedly, because over the year I have seen people doing mistake, is that, just a minute, give me a minute, it has, okay, I'm back. So one mistake that I have seen over the year is that students swap the rows. What do I mean? They place the bigger one here and the smaller one here. Do not do that. Never ever do that. Do not ever swap the rows, the values of rows, right? What it should be always we should have the lower value in the bottom row and the upper value, the higher value on the top. Okay, Raju has a question. Should the dx dt always be equal to 0 or any other constant as well? Okay, Raju, this is a basic question, right? By definition, a steady state is where dx dt, I am writing, actually derivative of the dependent variable should be equal to 0, right? It has to be equal to 0, then only it is steady state, right? So I think you people are not seeing my screen. Let me see. Can you see my screen now? Let us see. Yeah, hopefully you can see my screen now, right? Okay. Okay, Raju, I hope you got the answer, right? So I have written it down. By definition, that is the steady state. Because at steady state, the dependent variables are not changing with time. So if my system has x, y, z, w, all are dependent variable, then what will happen in steady state? Dx dt equal to dy dt equal to dz dt equal to dw. It should be equal to, all derivative must be equal to 0. Right? Okay. So I'm sorry, briefly, possibly our screen was not visible to you, but I'm sure you must have not missed anything. What you may not have seen in the screen is when I was explaining this concept, where I said that the bigger value should be in the upper row, the lower value should be in the lower row. Don't swap those. Don't swap those. Right? Okay. So let me go to the next question. Okay. So next question has the same equation. Actually, it is a continuation of the previous one. Here we are asking you to calculate the direction of the arrow for this ODE in the direction field, right? So you are creating a direction field, E versus X, and what I am asking you to tell me the direction of the arrow at x equal to -4. Okay, so suppose this is -4. Suppose this is 0. So I am asking you to calculate the direction of the arrow at x equal to -4. Now you can say, okay, x equal to -4 at what t? Don't get confused, because it's the autonomous equation, right? It is a autonomous ODE, because it does not have no time on right hand side. right? There is no time on the right hand side. You have right hand side, you have only x square minus 9. So that means anywhere along this horizontal line for x equal to minus 4, I can draw a direction field arrow and their direction will be same, right? So how do I calculate? So suppose if I draw a arrow here, something like this. If I draw another arrow along this horizontal line, both of these two should be parallel. Their slope will be same. Dx dt will be same. So I am asking you to calculate the direction of this arrow, right? The direction that I have drawn is just arbitrary. So I am asking you to calculate the direction of the arrow for this particular equation. Dx dt equal to x square minus 9. So can someone try and write in the chat box what should be the answer? What direction do you expect? I'll wait for 1 minute or 2 minutes. Up arrow, said Raju. Let us check out whether it is correct or not. Dx dt equal to x square minus 9. So replace x square by minus 4, right? So it will be minus 4 whole square minus 9. So that is 16 minus 9. So it is a positive value. How much positive? It is 7, right? So it will be an up arrow. You cannot show the arrow direction in your chat box. So in that way, Raju, you are correct. But possibly it will be something like this, right? It will not be like that. So it will be possibly something like this. I do not know. You can check the value of tan and calculate that, but it will be like that. So in quizzes and exams, what we usually do, we usually give the arrows. For example, I can give the arrows like these, right? Something like these 3 options, and then I ask you which of these 3 arrows will be correct. So obviously this one will be correct, right? Good try, Raju. So let us go to the third question. I hope there is no query on this previous one. Okay, this question looks a bit long. Let me explain what it is. You are not to focus into reading the whole text. You just focus on the model. It is a rough model. It is a very simplistic model taken just for exercise and teaching in class, where we are trying to model the growth of cancer cell. Cancer cells actually originate from one primary site of tumor, somewhere maybe in the liver, right? And then it migrates to capillaries to other distant places where it was secondary, right? So here I have C, which represent cancer cells in the capillary, whereas I represent the number of cancer cells in a secondary site. So this is the line written, C and I are number of cancer cells in capillary and at the secondary site. We have the ODs given and the parameter value, the constant value A, B, D is 1 and P equal to 2. The question is, we have to draw the null-line plot and identify the steady state. How should I proceed? Let us check. Okay, so I will do it here. So let me write down the equation somewhere below, so it will be easier for me to go down and do dc dt equal to minus AC minus BC and di dt equal to AC plus PI minus DI. Okay, fine. I will not take the numerical values now. Anyway, you can do that. So first, and remember, please practice drawing null-line plot. This is important to learn the subject as well as for exams. So what is null-line plot? First, I will do the C null-line. By definition, C null-line will be where dc dt equal to 0. That means dc dt equal to 0. So take the first equation, equation 1. So dc dt equal to 0 equal to minus AC minus BC. So that means minus A plus B into C equal to 0. That means C equal to 0. This is a curve. This will be called C C alkaline, right? And I have to draw it. And then I have to find out steady state using this. So this is the C alkaline. Let us check the I alkaline. Okay. So just like C alkaline dc dt equal to 0, I alkaline I di dt will be 0. So let me make di dt equal to 0. Then what will happen? Then the second equation I can put equal to 0, right? So I will write AC plus PI minus DI, right, is equal to 0. Fine. So now separate out I and C. These are two different variables. I will separate them. I can write out AC minus D minus P into I equal to 0. I'm just arranging term, nothing more than that. So then I have I equal to AC divided by D minus P. Fine. So I have that. So this is my I null. I don't remember the value of constant. Do you remember? Let me check out. A, B, D equal to 1, P is equal to 2. Okay, everything is 1, only P is 2. So let us now put those values. So my C alkaline, as I calculated, C equal to 0. So I have no problem. There is no value to be replaced. I alkaline is I equal to AC by D minus P. A is 1, so 1 into C is C. D is 1, P is 2, right? D is 1, P is 2. So 1 minus 2. So I can write this is minus C. So I equal to minus C is my I null. So how it will look on a diagram? Let me draw the diagram. And if you are doing paper and pen to draw alkalines, always use different colors for different alkalines. So first I will draw the C alkaline. Let me take the blue color. So I have taken that now. I will draw the diagram. So C alkaline is C equal to 0. That means it's a vertical line. So let me call it C. This is I. Horizontal is C. Vertical is I. So C alkaline C equal to 0 would be this vertical line. So this is my C null. This way you can write. Okay. Let me change the color for the other null line. Let me take the green one. So now I will draw I null line. This equation will be used. I equal to minus C. So it will be a straight line with a negative slope. There is no intercept, right? So let me try out roughly. My hands are shaking. Please bear with me. This is straight line. Imagine this is straight line. All this is a horrible straight line. So this is I null line. That has been asked you to do, right? So I have drawn the null line. That was the question. Now I am asking an extra question to this, right? If I ask you extra question, the extra question is: can someone there who are live now, can please tell, for example, Raju, Soikat, or anybody who is right now online, can tell where is the steady state? Looking in this diagram, IC diagram where the I alkaline and C alkalines are drawn, can you please tell where is the steady state? Where is the location of the steady state? Can somebody try? I'll wait. Raju, you said center. Center or the, okay, center in a way. Do you want to make a better answer of this? Yes, center is correct in that sense. I hope you mean that where I and C coordinate, sorry, the axis has intersected, that was the intersection. Yes, intersection, the right, correct answer always, you are correct Raju, but always if I say technically to be perfect, is that the intersection between I and C null clients. That is my steady state. Because they are only both dc dt equal to 0 and di dt equal to 0. So my steady state is here. Raju, you said right. This is the right. This is the steady state. Okay. So let me see if I have any other question. Otherwise, I will come back to this question and discuss something interesting if our time permits. If anybody has any question up to this, please ask. Okay, let me go to another question, and you should be able to answer this type of question. This is a phase portrait, right? It is a two-dimensional system, and the equation is also given here. So although the equation is not so important to answer this question, right? I have given the equation. If you have paper and pen, why don't you write down the equation so that you can get back and draw this using an online tool yourself, the way I have drawn here. So I have x and y. So let me get back to the figure first, because the figure is important for this question. I have x here, I have y here. And this is a phase portrait, right? Phase plane. And these arrows are actually showing me the how with time the system will evolve, right? For example, just to explain, suppose at t equal to 0, I am here. That means I know the value of x and y at that position, right? So suppose that value is x0, y0. Then if I now release the system to move, evolve, what will happen with time? Following these arrows, the system will move something like this. So this will be my trajectory. If you start somewhere else, for example, suppose if I start here at t equal to 0, suppose this is my t equal to 0 position, then I will follow the arrows from there and I will move something like this. This is my another trajectory, right? Trajectory depends upon where you started. Okay, so that is not the question. Let me get back to the question. This system has two steady states. Let me zoom in. This A is one steady state and this B is one steady state, right? You have to tell what type of steady state are these. What type of steady state are these two? You have to say, right? So that is the question. So if you have seen the videos about different phase portrait, can somebody answer? Raju, I will come back to your question that you have posted. For the timing, let us discuss this question only. So, does anyone want to try this question? Okay, so you look into the lecture 5 and 6, you will find there we have discussed many type of phase portrait. This one is called saddle. Very simple. You must have seen the saddle of a on a horse, right? So that has this type of shape. So on this direction it goes down. From this direction it goes this direction. So this is called the saddle. Why it is called saddle? You look at the trajectories. The trajectories are coming and moving away. Trajectories are coming towards us A point steady state and moving away. They are moving away. So this is saddle. What about the other one? Just follow the arrows. All the arrows are collapsing at B. B is a steady state. All the arrows are collapsing there. So B is a stable node or stable steady state, or it is also called a sink node. Imagine all water is flowing and coming to this steady state. These arrows are these arrows represent flow of water. They are all coming back to this. They are all coming back to this hole at B, right? This is a steady state. So this is a stable node or sink node. The system, if you start somewhere, it will come and collapse. Okay. I hope it is clear, but try to practice this type of question. This video of the live session will be also available to our online later on, also recorded version. So come back to this question and try to answer. Now let me take what Raju has asked, just in case other people have also this confusion. What possibly you are asking is why I equal to minus C is this line, diagonal, right? Fine. So the answer is basic linear equation of line. Equation of a straight line is y equal to mx plus c, where m is the slope and c is the intercept. Our equation is I equal to minus c. Don't confuse with this c and this c. This is intercept, and here this is actually, so equivalently I can write, if I map this is equal to y equal to minus x. So that means this line should go to 0, 0, 0, right? Because it does not have any intercept. So it must go through this 0, 0, right? Because it does not have any intercept. At the same time, the slope is negative. Slope negative. That means I should have a slant towards up high, from the high on the left hand side, low on the right hand side. Then only the slope can be negative. That is why we have this type of. Fine. Okay. I will end this with a question for all of you to think over it. Right? I will not give this answer right now, because I want you to please think over it, because this is very important to understand. Can two trajectories on a phase plane plot intersect each other? Please think over this question. If you do not get answer, raise this question in my next live session. I will explain. But put some head in this, think over it. Can two trajectories in a phase plane plot intersect with each other? What do I mean by that? Suppose I have a phase plane plot, something like this, x and y. I have started a trajectory from this point at t equal to 0, and my phase portrait says, my mathematics says that it will go like this with time. Whereas, suppose I start with another position here at t equal to 0, then you start, and that trajectory goes like this. So I have two trajectories and they are intersecting here. Is such intersections possible? Can we have physically such intersection? Because remember, we are not modeling something non-physical, right? It has to be physically possible. So the question is, can such intersection of two trajectories possible or not? As I said, I'll not answer this. Why don't you think over it? And if you do not get this answer, search it. Search in books or online thing, or ask your friends. If you don't get the answer, and if you finally do not get the answer, in the next week again we will have a live session. Ask me there, right? So this is what I have to discuss from my side on today's live session. If you still have questions, please raise those questions. We have a couple of minutes left, so I will try to answer those questions. So if anybody has any question, please ask. Okay, I will just repeat. If anybody has any more question, you can ask the questions in the chat box. I will try to answer. We have a couple of minutes left for today's live session. And just to remind you, in the next week also we will have another live session. I hope you all will participate in that and we will interact again. I will solve some example problem and discuss the key issues of third week lectures. And if you have not solved that unsolved problem that I have given today, we will discuss that also. Okay, it seems there is no more questions. So if there is no more question, let me thank all of you who have joined today in today's live session for this course on Introduction to Dynamical Models in Biology. As I have mentioned repeatedly, that for this 4-week course, every week we will have live session. Right? So next week also we will have a live session, which will take care. See you in the next live session.